Everyone, welcome to the first episode of my podcast. Don't quite have an exact name for it yet, but we'll get something set up. My name's Miles. I am a 22-year-old entrepreneur and just big into the internet money space. And today I'm super excited to have a man of a couple different names on. He goes by J Millennial on Instagram and Edward in Texas on YouTube. He works in cybersecurity as well as big real estate and stock investor and a FatFire advocate. So I'm definitely super excited to have Edward on today. So how are you? How are you doing, Edward?
Doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
how are you doing?
Sure. Very excited. You're a big inspiration to me, as I know I say sometimes, and you have that awesome 2004 Toyota Prius that's something.
Running joke, man. Totally love it.
For sure. Yeah. So one thing I definitely want to know is how you got started. Like, was there a specific mindset shift that really put you on, the very impressive money path you've had over the past few years, building up that, what's it, about $800,000 net worth?
That's correct. Yeah. I checked this morning, 840 with the market today.
840 at age 26. So that's, incredibly impressive and inspiring. And it's even more awesome that you document and share the journey as well. So what was the mindset shift that really started all of that?
What really happened is back in 2014, I started my main job, and I've always had this underlying dream that I wanted to own a Maserati someday. Everyone that sees any of my podcasts over time, I always say the exact same thing, and I'm just going to keep repeating it. It's that, when you have a dream that is a bit expensive and out of reach or out of touch, and you just really want to go at it, it really changes the way you think.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of this research process, given the price of the car and everything around it, I realized, well, I'm going to have to make big money to be able to afford such a vehicle. And as part of it, what happened is I stumbled upon this one article one day, how I became a millionaire by 30 by this guy named Financial Samurai, Sam.
Yeah, I've checked out his blog as well. He's very awesome.
That is what got me started. Is I was looking at an expensive car, and then I saw he had a G63 or something ridiculous at the time, but he ended up selling it. But he's still on the path to FatFire as well, and he's really into this. And I just decided, well, if he can do it, I'm going to try to do the same thing.
Yeah. So when was this? To give all the audience a sense of like how many years you've really been going hard at.
Sure. Yes, I've been dreaming about the Maserati since at least 2010. So 10-year anniversary.
So you were probably right about graduating high school then, or so?
That's correct. Yes, 2011 was when I graduated high school, and then I graduated college in 2014. That's when I became like, oh my gosh, I have a real job. I can make money, get promoted, and all this other stuff.
So did you graduate in 3 years then?
Yes, I did. That's right.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be graduating in actually 3.5 years. That's something I haven't shared much of on here, but yeah, so I'll be finishing up in December in 3.5 years.
Better than the average.
I guess so. All right, so you finished up school 2014, so you got your first job, and then at some point in there, you were making good money as you are now, and then real estate and stocks started getting in. So tell us about the first property you got, because I think it was right in the first few years there.
Yeah, what happened is in 2015, I was talking with my dad about this, and I was like, you know what? I have to build up some income, right? Because I'm going to pay off this car somehow. So
Yeah.
I looked along with him, and he said, take a look at Vegas, because it's not California. California's expensive as hell, and you're not going to be able to afford it here. So you have $20-something thousand, or you're trying to save this money. Why not invest it somewhere else? So Vegas is only, like a 3.5-hour drive away from California. So I decided, you know what? If something goes wrong, I could check it out. But other than that, if I can manage it off-site, totally perfect. So at the time, that's when we started looking. And then I was saving up all this cash over time. I know $28,000 at the time was a big amount for me because that was literally all of my life savings.
Yeah.
It was that plus about $3,000. So once I closed on the house, you literally have $3,000 left. So it's a big gamble on my part. And looking back, it's one of the best decisions I made. But of course, telling everybody, you got to make a calculated decision because I could very well lose that and go into debt.
Yeah, because you're probably 22 or 23 at this point, right?
That's right, yes.
Exactly. And so that was when you were living in California. You live in Texas now. If I remember correctly from one of your YouTube videos, so you lived at home actually a few years after school as well?
Correct. Yep. So from 2014 to 2017, that's the time when I was really living at home because of the fact that, you're not going anywhere. You don't really have any commitments or anything.
Yeah.
I was a full-time consultant at the time, which I still am now, but I was traveling a heck of a lot to like Indiana and Florida and all these other places
Okay.
that I didn't really need a place for myself, aside from just a bedroom at home.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's definitely, probably from your perspective, another great decision that you made, and definitely something that, maybe a lot of people wouldn't do. But if you look at your situation now, just 4 years later, three properties, personal residence, and a massive
Right.
net worth. Exactly. So I'm sure it actually seems to me like it was pretty worth it.
It totally paid off. And for everyone that wants to get out of the house super early, I tell you guys, if your living situation at home is okay, just stay at home. Save all that money, 80% of your income, 80% of a salary of $100,000. That's a lot of money you can invest. And you're just throwing this money at your future self. Like when I tell people now that those first 3 years really changed my life, is it really did, because you take that money, you put it into stocks, you put it into real estate and all these other assets, it grows significantly over time. Just taking a look at my portfolio and the allocations and everything, just contributing it over time, not looking at it as, as much as I do right now, but
Yeah.
it's like it freaking outpaced my whole salary and my whole total income.
Exactly. And that's another thing I bring up when we speak a lot, is that I'm sure it's, felt like a long time, and but in the grand scheme of things, it's only been, 5 or 6 years. So just think of not only that you've been able to keep so much of the money that you made, but that money is going to be with you forever, and it'll be continue growing. You know
Exactly.
what I mean? And I think that's super important, because you definitely took advantage of, like, immediately out of school. All right, the money starts coming in, you're keeping it and you're growing it. So both parts of the puzzle, you know what I mean?
Right. And if I have a ratio for you, like for every $1 that I invested, it feels like I got $2 back. That's 5 years, man. That's
Yeah,
five
and
years
just
of
imagine
consistency.
what that'll, continue to grow to. And I mean, it's wildly impressive, and just very cool to me as well. So if we actually want to go in and break that down a little bit, so you make good money from the salary, the property's cash flow, and you benefited from some appreciation, and you sold one property, right?
That's right. Yeah. Indiana's gone.
Okay. And so I'd actually love to dive into the out of state investing, because so you're located in Texas.
Hmm.
You had the property in Vegas for a while, even when you were still living in California. You did some work in Indiana, sold that property. I
Yep.
assume a good profit done on the specifics of it. And then you recently actually went into property in Florida as well, which you've been
Correct.
documenting on YouTube.
Correct.
Yeah. So you want to tell us a little bit about the Florida property, and what maybe drew you to Florida, and maybe drew you to sell that property in
Yes.
Indiana?
Yes. So I'll start off with the Indiana property just because it is next in line, right? So in 2015, also in November, what it was is in Indiana, there was this 2 bedroom, 1 bath house that was 988 square feet, I believe. Literally, I could walk to Lucas Oil Stadium from that house. That's how close it was to
Oh
downtown.
wow. So it's right in Indianapolis.
Yeah, literally Indiana proper. There's a freeway that passes through, and I lived on Senate Avenue, which was just south of that. If you
Oh,
look at that neighborhood,
we're living in Indiana at this point.
so I was considering it, and I did in and out of California because I had a long-term client in Indiana. So I decided, why not buy a freaking property in Indiana?
All
So
right.
I did.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think $45,000 is the price of that property
All
when
right.
I ultimately bought it.
And so that was single family, you said?
Yeah, it
Yes.
didn't have a garage, but
Single.
it had 2 bedrooms.
So so assuming, did you buy it cash or did you mortgage it?
No, I mortgaged it, and the payment on that monthly was like $240 a month for 30 years. I mean, can you believe that?
Exactly. And so did you end up paying it off early, or did you just flip it once it appreciated?
No, I just flipped it when it
Flipped it.
appreciated because, house in Indiana, house anywhere that's near downtown, people are revitalizing it over time.
Exactly.
Indiana, I believe, was a bit run down. It might still be, but I know that they're building a gas station right behind that house that I bought. So
Hmm.
that increased the property value and some other things that they did downtown. So I
Yeah.
ultimately sold that.
Very
Like,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and then so the Vegas house is appreciated a lot as well, and I
Oh
know
my.
you probably see potential there long term.
Yep, yep. So I still plan to keep that until at least $300,000 and then maybe 1031 it. That's
Oh, okay.
that's
And
my plan.
so, and $300,000 in value or appreciation?
In value, that would be
Oh, okay.
200,000.
Yeah.
Yep.
'Cause I wasn't sure, because I don't have a great sense of like real estate prices.
Hmm.
I wouldn't be surprised if property in an area like Vegas, did have the potential to go from like 300 to 600, but I guess it was like 200 to 300 or something like that.
Right. And what I did at the time is when I was shopping for properties in 2014, 2015 for that Vegas house, I looked at all the Zillow, Redfin in the area. Typically when houses listed for sale, people are buying or people are selling it for a profit. Usually that's the plan. That's the hope.
Yeah.
So I always look at the property history of it. And I was like, my gosh, the houses in this area sold for freaking like $240,000. And I paid 113 for mine. So I was thinking, no brainer. I'm just going to buy this property and
Yeah.
then just hold on to it, right? I'll get the rental income, stay in it for a while, maybe 1031 it someday.
Yeah, and so you're all the properties you bought you found on Zillow and Redfin and sites like that?
Specifically Redfin. Yeah, that's my favorite site to look on.
All right, very interesting. Because a lot of people, at least these days, from me on the outside listening to a podcast or watching the occasional YouTube video, a lot of people are saying like the money's only in the off-market deals. But clearly, you're a great example that you can still find stuff, right on Zillow and such.
Yeah, so my explanation for that is if you can work with a very good realtor, they can help you find an off-market property and you'll do very well. What
Okay.
I specifically look for though is people tend to misrepresent their listing, and not like in a bad way. I say in a good way for me because people will post pictures that are like 5 years old and put in the description, oh, recently renovated or something. Or they don't even tell you that at all. Because when I walked into Florida property or had a walkthrough, I was like, this doesn't look anything like the pictures. Are you sure you're showing me the right property? And he's
Mhm.
like, heck yeah. And that reminded me of back in 2015 when I bought the Vegas house. That literally had two pictures up, one of the street view and one of the back street view. And it just said rented for 5 years to the same tenant. And I was thinking, that's mind blowing. It's all
Yeah,
I
and they were
just have somebody check it
advertising
out.
without any images. Yeah. So when you go out of state, have you traveled there with multiple properties to look at in mind, or how does that process work?
Yeah, so typically it's problematic.
I can
What's
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, the best thing to do is you get a realtor that you trust. Tell them, hey, can you do some walkthrough for me of these properties? And then just video call me, do a FaceTime.
Oh, that's perfect. That's very
Yeah,
21st century. Like that. That's very
yeah,
efficient as
yeah.
well.
Most people are like, heck yeah, I'm down. 5 p.m. We're gonna do a video call. Just show me what you're looking for. Look under the sinks. Look at the roof. Look at the HVAC together.
Yeah.
And
Because I mean they're obviously located in the area and know it better than you do.
exactly. And I'll ask him, hey, what does the neighborhood look like? Show me the neighborhood. Oh, that guy's got a 7 Series parked in his driveway. Probably a pretty good property. Or it could be a trap house. I
Another
don't know.
interesting
Yeah.
way to look at it for sure. So so obviously we said you were really young when you were getting into, not saying you're old now, but really when you bought that first property. So what books were you reading? What content were you consuming for anyone listening, looking to maybe get their first property early in their
Yeah.
20s?
Yeah. The first resource I trusted at the time, because, as I mentioned, I was looking for that car, right? Financialsamurai.com. That dude's got a wealth of information. I specifically remember reading articles about the best real estate markets to invest in. And
Hmm.
he highlighted like 5, I believe, or 10. And I
Yeah,
think Vegas was one of them.
I was checking out his blog today, and it seems like he's focusing a lot on the Midwest right now and Middle America
Yes.
for his
Yes.
investments through, I think, like crowdfunded operations, which is very interesting. It's very modern investing style. But yeah, clearly, I mean, Indiana fits into that mold, and you were successful there.
Yes. And I wouldn't have sold it if I didn't know the guy that was living there because he's a personal friend. And I was thinking, you know what? I'm not going to go too high on this, but you know, just give it to you. You'll be able to build your wealth this way, right? It was just like a friendly gesture than making a lot of money out of it.
Yeah, and so on the topic of investing, so what split do you have, at least in terms of how you're deploying your money, like between stocks and real estate? What's that split look like?
I like to keep it 50-50.
Oh, very,
So,
very cool. Yeah, nice and simple.
right. For every dollar that I'm going to put in stocks, I'm going to take another dollar and then put it into a real estate savings fund and then just deploy that capital later.
Yeah, so you probably have a separate account, maybe a separate bank account for each
Yep.
property, or just one separate real estate fund.
Right. So the bank account would be separate from, my main income, all that.
Yeah.
So all
Yeah.
of that real estate related stuff goes into that bank account. And then everything that I save, that's not going to go into whatever money's being made for me by the real estate. That's going to go into a separate account. So three
Yeah.
or four different accounts.
Oh, okay. So yeah, a lot. That's cool. That's cool. And so you're obviously outsourcing the property management for all these
Of
operations.
course, yes.
Yeah.
And I do have to look for each property manager. So, you look on Yelp, you go ask your realtor, you check out the reviews. And typically I like to dig really deep into the reviews and
I
see,
can imagine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
For sure, because that's obviously like they're the ones screening the tenants. They're the ones dealing with maintenance. They're the ones that have relationship
Exactly. Yep.
the contractors.
Yep.
For sure. So 50-50 split, very, very interesting. And so for your stock investing, are you only doing index funds? Are you picking individual stocks? What does that look like?
Mostly index funds just because I don't have the time to look at every single stock out there. And
Exactly.
I've made terrible decisions in the past. So many terrible decisions. And I could literally tell you like two or three scenarios.
Yeah, and the way I think about it is, at least from my personal perspective, the money and the headspace, like the mental fortitude I could be deploying to pick individual stocks, I could take that money, put it in an index fund, know that that money is growing consistently, and take
Hmm.
that headspace and go and get more guaranteed profit while retaining every dollar I've already made and growing that through the index fund, if you know what I mean.
Right, right. And I'm thinking about it the exact same way.
Yeah, yeah. So that's definitely the strategy I like for that, and it seems like you share it. All right, so you got the main W-2 income as a consultant. What else do you have going on besides the real estate properties? Are there any other side hustles working for you?
Oh man, yeah. Besides that side hustle, I do have the YouTube channel, right? That one hit a
Yes.
thousand
Yep.
dollars last month.
Yep. Very
Ridiculous.
neat. And so you have around 10,000 subscribers on that, right?
Last I checked, 14,000.
Oh, 14.
Yeah.
So from at least what I've seen from a very outside perspective, you seem like you have a pretty good, like your ads are doing pretty well then, at least cost per click, or the niche you're in gets a good cost per click, or however that works.
Yeah, so I realized that real estate and personal finance and even cars, those have pretty good CPMs, of
Yeah.
course, finance being the highest
Because the
since
people
they're paying the
watching
most for the
those
space.
videos have money to spend. So the best way
Exactly.
to just
Yep.
go there. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And so you got the Maserati, got the real estate portfolio. And so actually, yeah. So besides the YouTube channel, what else do you have going on?
Dude, you hit that. I'm thinking about it, man. Like I got the Amazon affiliates.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah. And the Instagram account, which regardless of whether, in the short term, it might not be making anything. You probably got some affiliate links here and there, like the relationships you build, the information you get from other people sharing their mistakes and their strengths. Like it totally compounds in my opinion.
it does because I remember like Amazon affiliates when I first started that last year, I was making like, $5 a month, something really small. But of course, as YouTube grows and as you're able to funnel all these clicks into that Amazon, now it's making like I think $60 last month. So it's
Exactly. And that,
decent.
and then next comes 100, next comes 150. And they just cut commissions like nuts, I think at the start of the pandemic, or like maybe the start of
I
2020.
did see that. Yeah, I
So
had
it's
like a
such a shame.
$30 a month, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So I didn't even run any Amazon. I used to for like some of the different products I use for running the resale businesses and such.
Mm-hmm.
But
Totally.
yeah, they cut the commissions. But definitely personal capital. I know you get some from, and then
Yeah,
you had 14,000 subscribers right now. That's no small amount at all. So there'd probably be some more opportunities in the future.
which
To
I even tell
monetize that
people,
audience as well.
right? And for people starting their YouTube channel, it amazes me that even in the niche of personal finance, I can see people like who is it, Invest with Queenie or Sui and Ong, just two YouTubers that came to my mind recently that started their channels within the last year, and they've grown to a couple thousand subscribers as well. So
Awesome.
it's a space where anyone can jump in right away.
Yeah.
Even anyone listening to this right now, it's not too late to start. If you can do it differently, or even do it better, or just do it differently, right? People will notice it.
Yeah, and even from a selfish perspective, like imagine how cool it is. I assume for you to look back, 2, 3, 4 years and see where you were at that point. Then to now, you might look different. Yeah, your net worth definitely looks different. You know what I mean?
Right. And the thing is, it's like constant and consistent improvement. I feel like I haven't changed my core values, even though processes have changed significantly over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I definitely, speaking from a value perspective, so it's in your Instagram bio. I assume it's on your YouTube as well. So that millionaire by 30 goal, when did that come around, and when did you make it public? When did you really set in stone that that's something that's going to happen? And at this point, it's looking like it's going to happen at least 2 or 3 years earlier than expected.
Oh yeah, I was surprised to see that as well. I didn't expect it to come around that fast. But what where I got this from, of course, again, Financial Samurai. Oh my gosh, I keep quoting that guy. I need to stop. But what happened is I publicized that in January 2018, I believe. That's when my first post came out on Instagram.
So you definitely had a few hundred K at that point, right?
Yes, it was 308,000 on my first post, if I remember correctly.
Okay, so yeah, you've nearly tripled it since then, and it's only been like 2.5 years, whatever, nearly 3 years.
Right, and that's the interesting part is for people in the journey working along it, it it's something where you look back and you're like, wow, month over month I'm not impressed, but year over year it's like that's insane.
I agree for sure. Like my favorite thing in the whole personal finance world is like the Mr. Money Mustache article where the history of the stash. The website's called Budgets Are Sexy or something like that, where literally she or he, whoever, published an article for the last 12 years going from like -50 to like 1 million, and then that was the last article ever, was I think was her $1 million article, like millionaire article. But your posts on Instagram with the personal capital, My Wealth Diary does an awesome job of documenting it. Just
Oh, she does.
really shows people
Yep.
it's possible, you know what I mean?
Right, and that's the point of being here. Like, I don't go around pandering for likes or anything. I don't do giveaways. I'm just genuinely showing whoever's interested what it is. And
Yeah.
if I can make some money on the side, if people are willing to click into those affiliate links, awesome. If not, you know what? I'm still going to post anyway for anyone that's willing to read it.
Yeah, so I definitely, like, that was one question I had, is what's your motivation for documenting on social media? And I mean, clearly, so it seems like you started the YouTube channel first and then you switched over
Yes.
to Instagram.
Yes. And YouTube and Instagram, I feel like I run them separately because of the content that I produce.
I
Like,
agree for sure. Yeah, from an outside perspective.
yeah. Anyone looking at my YouTube channel will be like, yeah, he's not really this or he's not really that, but he's probably like a Texas guy.
Yeah,
That's
I would
that's
say
what it
you're
seems like.
definitely very funny on Instagram, and I feel like you keep it a little more serious on YouTube. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
I
feel the same way there.
yeah, the nature of the platform, I agree, as well.
Yep.
You're speaking to a more broad audience on YouTube. Instagram, it's a little different because you're publishing content every day. You're more documenting, whereas YouTube, it's more like this is the process of buying the property, whatever. On Instagram, it's like a pull of the Maserati versus the Prius, which I'm
Literally.
the first pull the Prius ever lost. Breaks my heart, but
Yep. Yep.
it's a great moment for you to even be able to post that pull. You know what I mean?
Right. And that's the thing about Instagram is you're reaching an audience of people across different ages, genders, geographies, and all that stuff. And I look at my YouTube and the audience I'm hitting is very different. So, I feel it frustrating at times that you have to make two different types of content for different platforms. But at the same time, I know at the end of the day what I'm trying to do with YouTube and what I'm trying to do with Instagram.
Yeah.
And the audience is different. But the whole point of the Instagram is when I created back in 2018, I actually had people hit up my personal Instagram. And you notice that this is not my personal Instagram. I have another one that's floating out there somewhere, but people used to find that coming straight from my YouTube channel. And
Hmm.
people would ask me, you know what? Do you have advice on this? Because at the time I was posting Big Four consulting related videos.
Okay. Yeah, that's another thing I was gonna ask. Yeah, I've checked out some of those as well. But one of the things I really like, that if you're interested in sharing about, is how you seem like you're always looking for another opportunity, whether it's another property, another investment class, or
Hmm.
another job in this case as well.
Right.
It's cool that you're just very focused on self improvement, and just improving the different areas of life as well. So I think I have one final question for you, and that would be, if you could tell your younger self or someone just starting out their fire or fat fire journey, what was one thing you either would tell them or you wish you could have told your younger self?
Well, with all the decisions I made, I kind of wish that I went a little bit more aggressive back in 2015 because I was closing on that first property in Vegas, and I was thinking, my gosh, if I had done the second or the third, I'd be much richer than I am now. But maybe it could have been a headache, right? Could be a
Yeah.
silver lining there.
Yeah,
You don't
hindsight's
know.
2020 for
Yeah,
sure. I
that's
mean,
one thing.
for yeah, like very early 20s, like I'm sure like did you have anyone like very close to you helping out at all with that?
So I didn't get anyone to help me with down payments or anything. I like to tell people that I am self-made. I didn't ask my parents for money, and my
Hmm.
parents offered to give me money, but I said don't. And I know at the time they were just barely getting themselves on their feet too. And
Yeah.
I said, well, you have other brothers to help too, so I'm not going to let you touch that money that you have, no matter what amount that is. So I made a decision that it has to be my money, it has to be my path, because when I'm documenting, it has to be wholesome.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah, and I would say, not only just specifically sharing numbers, but there's also, you're very authentic. There's a personal connection, there were, I assume, hundreds of comments when you completed the Maserati goal and stuff like that.
So another piece of advice,
Oh, cool. Yep. Let's hear it.
yeah, what I would say is I wish I had put more money into the index funds at the time and trusted the process.
Hmm.
Because if you look at my E-Trade portfolio over the last 3 years, that's when I built up all the money, and that's when I threw in all my bonuses and all that stuff. If I had started earlier, like in 2015, then we'd be speaking slightly different here because more money to go in there. I
Yeah.
spent 5,000 here, 5,000 there into stocks that ultimately tanked, and I had some where I put 2,000 in one, and then that went up like 500%.
Yeah.
So,
And the Bitcoin endeavor.
oh my gosh, oh, don't even get me started on Bitcoin, man. Like I put 4,000 in that, and that's $1,000.
Hey,
It's literally
a
nothing.
lot of people put a lot more than that into it. You know what I mean? And some people definitely made money off it, but I mean, once again, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah, and the point I have to say is just trust the process.
Yeah.
Index funds and all that stuff. If I had done it earlier, it would have been a lot better.
Hmm. All right. Well, definitely appreciate you sharing. Everyone for listening as well. If you have any final thoughts, but we definitely appreciate you coming on.
Dude, thank you for having me, man. It's been great having conversations with you every single time.
For sure. Yeah, you're a big inspiration to me and many others, and I hope I can introduce you to a lot of my audience as well. But without further ado, I will see all the listeners next time, and really appreciate you coming on today.